Namaste, everybody. So, just wanting to talk to you today about what is happening in the world and the path of ascension to what is spirituality. Because for many parts of our journey, we look to become spiritual. And then at some point, I've heard this many, many times recently, where people are not wanting to become associated with the word spiritual or become angry at the world. So let's look at what is spirituality first. So, to be spiritual for me is to be conscious. If you want to look at the technical terminology, it's about focusing and prioritizing the human spirit, the human soul, rather than materialism. So that is to become conscious, isn't it? The priorities change. The priorities change for us as spiritual beings, as souls, to evolve, to come way beyond the physical. So when we look at that, there's nothing to want to disassociate with spiritual, but to be spiritual is also to be many other things. And whilst you are doing everything you can to help with the prioritizing, the conscious awareness of soul, that requires you to have boundaries. As empaths, we feel everything. So we are very sensitive, and at some point in our journey, certainly at the beginning and even later stages, we want to shield ourselves from things that maybe don't align, maybe are uncomfortable, and we want to just do what's right in the world, hold space, bring healing. But we don't want to keep healing the trauma of the world. We don't want to keep people dependent on us. It's very old vibration. My later years of doing lots of treatments and healings, I would know that deep within the messages were the treatments would be 1 or 2 visits, and those visits were to be about giving people things to empower them to take away, to self-heal. And of course, the only people that will do that are those that are becoming conscious as well, that it's their value themselves, their ability to self-heal, their ability to participate in the world as well. So there's so many levels, there's so many aspects. The journey of meditation, as you know, I teach meditation at all levels, is again not to be external, not to be just guided, but to focus on the prana, focus on our energy, focus on our taking ourselves to that quiet inner peace, that nothingness, to become even more conscious along this path. So with everything happening with the 2020 energy, the awakening energy, we have massive shifts now up until 2025, which are very profound. We've all known about this, that have been awakened for some time. And again, it's not to make judgment of who's awakened and who's not, and what does that mean anyway, but it's just the level of consciousness, of awareness that we have of what's going on. And that deep level of consciousness brings such a positivity of understanding what is happening, all is well. It's meant to be. But it will be difficult, and we will feel uncomfortable, even more uncomfortable than we are now. But look at everything that's happening and become aware that those that aren't conscious, those that are still for material or egotistic gain, with many powers that are behind the workings of humanity in this 3-dimensional world, it's going to become even more uncomfortable. But understanding that as empaths, we have to push our boundaries, we have to share, we have to use our voice. That's also spiritual. You have to help the collective energy. It's not to stay in negative energy by any means. We continue to hold space, and I spend all of my time raising vibration and consciously holding space for people to feel empowered to hold space for others. And I've been doing that for many years now, and it's the ripple effect. But with that, it's not just fluffy. It's about facing your inner shadow. That's how we evolve. It's about going within to the deepest depths of areas that have caused maybe trauma or pain in the past, but to do so without reliving it endlessly. It's healing. There's so many different aspects of this ascension where we then no longer have to take it with us. So becoming spiritual, being spiritual, is about having boundaries too. It's about shining your light, ultimately kindness, of course, and being able to articulate and deliver things that may challenge other people, but as long as it's inner truth, as long as it's authentic, and as long as it's for the highest good of all. And that's the main thing with spirituality. You are from the inwards doing everything for humanity, for the collective, for oneness. It's no longer about just the material, the 3D world, or self-gain. So there's a massive shift that's occurring. We now have more energy coming at us. Please know that whether, we all have personal views. We have to make decisions. Do you want to wear a mask? Do you want to have a vaccine? Do you want to have this, that, or whatever else that's coming up in the design to separate us? So very much the divide and rule. And also know that when these things are launched in this way, it's very manufactured. You can tell that by the date. So just look at what you're doing and what you're choosing. But if there's something very prominent highlighted, you can be sure there's something else in the background that's even bigger that probably needs our attention. So just be conscious of that. The more that we can show kindness, irrelevant of your choices and decisions, the more that we can evolve and become conscious together to create a better world. Of course, levels of awareness means that we can only meet each other with what we agree with, what we don't agree with, but just look deeper into what your choices are bringing and why they're bringing. Follow your own common sense. As empaths as well, when you have things that are brought in for do this else you will harm others, that taps into all of your empathic, sensitive traits within your soul to make you feel like you're doing something wrong. So sit with that, look at the logic behind it, and then feel into it, because the logic, the intellect isn't where all the answers are. It's within your heart space. So sending you all much love today. Namaste.